In 2012, a team of workers from the Las Vegas Water Company was assigned to inspect an older section of the drainage tunnels running beneath the downtown area. These tunnels, built in the 1960s, were part of a flood control system that was rarely accessed except for emergency maintenance. The team, consisting of 3 men, descended through a rusted metal hatch, equipped with flashlights, tools, and radios. What they would find that afternoon would change their lives forever. The tunnel was narrow, with concrete walls covered in a thick layer of slime and moss. The air was heavy, carrying the smell of mold and stagnant water. As they walked, illuminating the path with their flashlights, one of the men, named Rick, noticed something strange on the ground. It was a silver chain partially buried in the mud. He picked it up, wiping it clean with his fingers, and noticed it was broken. The chain had a heart-shaped pendant with the initials LM engraved on it. Rick pocketed the chain, thinking it might have been lost by some worker years ago. But the further they went, the stranger things became. The tunnel floor began to show drag marks, as if something heavy had been pulled through the area. The walls had deep scratches, and in some spots there were dark stains that looked like rust or something worse. One of the men, named Tony, joked that it looked like a scene from a horror movie, but the mood was already too tense for laughter. Then they found the first body. It was in a corner of the tunnel, partially covered by debris. The body was in an advanced state of decomposition, but it was clearly human. The clothes it wore, a plaid shirt and jeans, were torn and dirty, and beside it was an old backpack with a rusted zipper. The team, in shock, immediately called the authorities. The police arrived quickly, sealing off the area and launching an investigation. The body was identified as Lucas Martinez, a 28-year-old man who had gone missing in 2009. Lucas was a homeless man known in the downtown area, and his disappearance hadn't garnered much attention at the time. The backpack beside him contained personal belongings, a jacket, a paperback book, and an empty water bottle. The discovery of Lucas's body led the police to investigate the tunnels more thoroughly. In the following days, search teams found evidence that this section of the tunnels had been used as a shelter by various people over the years. There were sleeping bags, empty food cans, and even small makeshift stoves. But what truly shocked the investigators was the discovery of 2 more bodies, both in advanced stages of decomposition. One was identified as Maria Gonzalez, a 35-year-old woman who had gone missing in 2008. The other remained unidentified, but the clothing and belongings suggested he was also homeless. The autopsies revealed that all 3 victims had died violent deaths. Lucas had skull fractures consistent with a blunt force injury. Maria showed signs of strangulation, and the third body had knife wounds to the chest. The police began to suspect that the tunnels were the scene of a series of murders, a true predator who used the Las Vegas underground as his hunting ground. The investigation deepened, and detectives began interviewing people who lived on the streets near the tunnels. Many reported chilling stories about the Shadow Man, a mysterious figure who supposedly roamed the tunnels at night. Some said he offered food and shelter to the homeless, but those who followed him were never seen again. Others claimed to hear screams coming from the tunnel entrances, but were too afraid to investigate. One homeless man named Eddie shared a particularly disturbing story. He said that one night, while sleeping near a tunnel entrance, he was awakened by the sound of footsteps. When he looked up, he saw a tall, thin figure wearing a black coat, dragging something heavy along the ground. Eddie said the figure stopped, looked directly at him, and then disappeared into the tunnel's darkness. He swore he never went near that area again. Despite the police's efforts, the case was never solved. The clues were scarce, and the witnesses, often discredited due to their homeless status, couldn't provide consistent information. The Shadow Man was never identified, and the tunnel murders remain a mystery to this day. Years later, Rick, the worker who found the silver chain, still remembers that day with a chill. He keeps the chain in a drawer at home, a reminder of what he saw and what was never explained. Sometimes he wonders if the killer is still out there, hiding in the depths of the tunnels, waiting for his next victim. And while Las Vegas continues to shine under the desert sun, beneath the surface, in the damp and silent shadows, The secrets of the tunnels remain buried, just like the lives that were lost there. It was supposed to be a quick shortcut. That's what he kept telling himself as he descended further into the dark, labyrinthine tunnels beneath Las Vegas. 35-year-old Ethan Walker, a maintenance worker for one of the smaller casinos downtown, had taken these tunnels before. Never far, never deep, just enough to get past the chaotic strip traffic when heading home late at night. But this time was different. This time, he wasn't getting out. On March 18, 2019, Ethan left his shift at 3 a.m., exhausted from another 12-hour stretch fixing slot machine malfunctions and leaky ceiling pipes. He wasn't the kind of guy to take risks, but the shortcut through the underground flood tunnels had always been safe enough in his mind. The tunnels stretched for miles beneath the city, originally built for flash flood control, but repurposed by the homeless, the desperate, and the forgotten. He had ventured down there before, never too deep, just enough to shave 15 minutes off his walk home. That night, though, his usual path was blocked by debris, forcing him to take a different route. He hesitated. Turn back or go forward? He had no idea that the decision would cost him everything. As he moved deeper, the air grew heavier, damp with the scent of stagnant water and mold. His flashlight flickered, a weak glow in the suffocating darkness. Graffiti lined the walls, some of it familiar, some of it strange and chaotic, as if written by someone in a state of madness. The silence pressed against his ears, interrupted only by the distant drip of water and the occasional scurrying of unseen creatures. Then something changed. The tunnel sloped downward at an angle he didn't remember. His feet splashed into a shallow stream, the trickling water guiding him forward like an invitation. He turned left, then right, following instinct rather than memory. The air felt colder. That's when the realization hit him. He was lost. Panic set in slowly at first, creeping into his thoughts like a slow-moving tide. He retraced his steps, convinced that the entrance had to be close. But every turn led him deeper, every familiar marker replaced by something unfamiliar, an old rusted shopping cart, a wall covered in cryptic symbols, a pile of discarded shoes. He called out, hoping someone, anyone, would hear him. Only the echo of his own voice replied. His phone had no signal, no GPS, no way to call for help. He checked the battery, 43%, enough to last him a few hours. But what then? He needed to stay calm. He remembered reading once that panicking in a survival situation was a death sentence. People made irrational choices, wasted energy, and succumbed to fear before actual danger even arrived. So he sat, leaning against the cold concrete, breathing deeply to steady himself. But the quiet was worse than the fear. It was too quiet. Even the distant water drips had faded. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. His phone battery was now at 29%, and the darkness felt like it was pressing in on him. He decided to move again, stumbling forward with the phone's flashlight guiding his way. That's when he heard it. Movement. Not water, not rats. Footsteps. A shadow emerged from the far end of the tunnel, shifting, hesitant. Ethan's heart pounded as he raised his flashlight, illuminating a gaunt figure. A man, older, his face hollowed by hunger, his clothes tattered and wet. His eyes glowed faintly under the beam of light, reflecting a life spent underground. "You lost?" the man rasped, voice cracked from dehydration. Relief flooded Ethan's chest. "Yeah, I don't know how to get out." The man studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Follow me." They walked in silence, the stranger moving with purpose while Ethan struggled to keep up. The tunnel twisted and turned, narrowing in places, the ceiling dripping with condensation. Every so often they passed remnants of life, makeshift beds, old blankets, a broken radio. People lived here, hundreds of them, hidden beneath the neon paradise above, surviving in the shadows. Ethan wanted to ask questions, but something about the man's demeanor kept him quiet. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a wider chamber, dimly lit by a distant grate where a sliver of moonlight shone through. Hope surged in Ethan's chest. the exit. He stepped forward, but the old man grabbed his arm. His grip was weak but insistent. "You don't go that way," he murmured. "Not anymore." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" The man let go and took a step back, his expression unreadable. "Go left. Stay in the dry paths. If you hear water, turn around. Always turn around." Ethan hesitated but nodded. He turned left as instructed, moving toward where the tunnel seemed to widen again. When he glanced back, the man was gone. He followed the path, ears straining for any sound of rushing water. Every step felt uncertain. Every shadow stretched unnaturally in the dim light of his phone. His battery was now at 6%. Then another turn, another few steps, and suddenly he saw it, a rusted metal ladder leading upward. His hands trembled as he gripped the cold metal, climbing each rung carefully, afraid it would snap beneath him. With one final push, he reached the top, forcing open a heavy grate. The strip was just beyond, glowing in the early morning light. Cars whooshed by, oblivious to the nightmare he had just escaped. He stood there, breathing in the fresh air, feeling the warmth of the rising sun on his face. Ethan never took the tunnels again. He quit his job a week later, left Las Vegas, and never looked back.